We are at an extraordinary moment here, Jonathan, in the U.S. and in the world. And it's a moment that reminds us that despite the period of hyper-sovereignty that all of us seem to have gone into following the extraordinary economic downturn of 2007, 2008, that seemed to lead to this intense reaction against globalism of all kinds, and gave rise to new liberal authoritarians all over the world and and literally every continent. Authoritarians who told us all that we could build a moat around our countries, lift up the drawbridge, and just be on our own. We know that that's not the case. It's actually never been the case, but especially not the case now when we have a global pandemic to contend with, whose effects are absolutely borderless. And the solution to getting out of this challenge is with intense scientific cooperation, intense cooperation with multilateral agencies, intense diplomatic solidarity and engagement. So it seems to me that the wrong lessons were learned coming out of 2008, 2010 turndown. Hopefully, as a result of these intense consequences, the right lessons will be learned this time around. The United States is an interesting petri dish of rights and social activism in this hour, where we have the twin crises of COVID-19, but also the crisis of the lack of equal access to justice that's been laid bare by the murder on camera of George Floyd. You noted when you introduced me, Jonathan, that I'm proud of the modest efforts that I've been able to make over time to make some kind of a contribution to pushing back against state-sanctioned violence through policing. But it felt to those of us who were engaged in that movement that we were fighting for the next generation, fighting to make sure that my children did not have to find their place in that machinery of injustice, or my grandchildren. But suddenly, we are, all of us, through this COVID moment and this policing moment, we're experiencing history at the speed of light. Suddenly, transformation that we thought not possible at all, transformation that we thought would really have to be taken up through a kind of steady incrementalism. The over to the window has just been busted wide open on these questions of disparities, these questions of inequality, these questions of justice, and it's compelled average citizens and policymakers to have to interrogate these matters in real time, and to have to also suggest prescription. This is a moment where we have movements that are seemingly leaderless, that have sprung up in every corner of society in America, and then have been amplified by civil society activists in other parts of the globe. And as a consequence of the seeming leaderlessness of this movement, but its sustainability and its resilience, consolidated power is moving as quickly as possible to respond as hurriedly as possible, because there's this tremendous anxiety that there really isn't anyone right now to negotiate with and to compromise demands with. And so institutions, both corporate and government, are racing to figure out how they can meet the moment. COVID-19 for me in the U.S., Jonathan, has been the great reveal. We've lived in the 20th century through the Great Depression and then the Great Recession, but now at this early point in the 21st century, we're going through the Great Reveal, because through COVID-19, which should have only been a healthcare crisis that could have been well managed by governments working in concert with one another, but through COVID-19, we've been shocked into an economic crisis that's revealed the deep-seated dislocations that have existed for some time now in our societies and that have been woefully unaddressed, not just by government, but I would also suggest unaddressed by the human rights movement as well. There's a way that we have kind of separated the world of rights from the world of creating a more broadly shared prosperity. So in the US, no shock that communities of color have experienced the greatest levels of COVID contagion and COVID morbidity. In the city that I'm in, New York, which has been kind of the epicenter of COVID through its first phase in the US with an extraordinary number of deaths. If you look at the 5 zip codes where we have the highest percentage of COVID, it's all zip codes with the lowest per capita income in New York. If you look at the 5 zip codes with the lowest percentage of COVID, all the zip codes with the highest wealth in New York. We thought at the beginning of this crisis, Jonathan, that it would be the great leveler. It has not been that at all. It's been the great revealer. But as a consequence of that, we're having conversations that we've not had before. We have a sustained moment in a new ecosystem that creates the possibility and potential of radical transformation.